It was Jesus who said, "You shall know the truth, and the truth will make you free." The truth that we deal with here is not a religious truth or a theological truth, but rather the truth of you. For this is the real quest of man, to know himself. You really know nothing until you know who you are. To put it in a somewhat religious way, we say you ought to know who and what you are in God, and who and what God is in you. This is the kind of knowing that we're talking about. Self-knowledge. So then we can define the science of living as self-knowledge, self-study, and not simply from an egocentric point of view, but to know yourself from a divine point of view. And this is what you must do. You must come to know yourself from a divine point of view. As long as you simply know yourself from a human point of view, you're going to have problems. But you must come to know yourself from the divine point of view. Several of the parishioners greeted me as I came through the front door a while ago and said, "Oh, Reverend Ike, I'm glad to see you back." He says, "Oh, we missed you." I said, "Well, you shouldn't have missed me. If you know me, you won't miss me. It depends on which me you know." This is the one I'm trying to forget about. This is the one I want to know. The divine me. Let me hear everyone say, "The divine me."
The divine me.
Come on, say it. The divine me. And this is the mystic meaning of the words of the prophet Isaiah. "Cease from man whose breath is in his nostrils." Cease to identify yourself from the human point of view and identify yourself from the divine point of view. It's always the human self that gets into trouble and that has problems. The divine self never gets into any trouble and never has any problems. And every time a problem presents itself to me, right away I remind myself that my divine self has no problem. That's why I don't deal with my problems anymore. I don't even try to solve my problems anymore. You'll catch on. Because you know exactly what self-consciousness you're in. You know, that's all you really have to do is just stop and ask yourself, what self-consciousness am I in? Too many people go completely through this segment of life without ever knowing themselves. That's why one of the greatest inscriptions ever written appeared over the door of the temple at Adelphi. "Man, know thyself." And all that you ever need to do is to know yourself correctly. You don't need to struggle or strain with anyone or with any situation or circumstances. All you ever need to do is know yourself correctly. To help other people, that's all you need to do. Know yourself correctly. Because all that you can ever give to another is your own self-consciousness. I read quite a few of the letters and the prayer requests last night and today, and various people describing various situations that they need help with. And I asked myself, now how shall I help these people? And the answer comes by knowing myself correctly. For the only thing that can help another is my identity of myself. Because all that I can ever experience or express is my own concept of myself. And we need to take all of this energy that we use trying to solve a problem in knowing the divine self of ourselves. Because when you discover the divine self, when you touch the divine self, you discover that the divine self has no problem. And I'm excited because I think I'm growing. I know I am. Next year I'll be speaking even in another tongue. But I think I have found that the technique, now listen to this for a moment, because, challenges come to all of us. But I found it much easier to know myself as the divine self, which has no problem, rather than struggling with problems. Because human self might solve one problem, but as soon as it solves one problem, it'll have another one. On simply the human level, I might heal you of a headache, but by the time I get you healed of the headache, old age will catch up with you. But you can be done with the human scene once and for all, even before you leave this dimension. So that when you actually leave this dimension, it won't be any big thing to you at all. You'll be transformed even before you make your transition. And it's interesting, even as I look back into the hymnal of the old church, you can see where several of the hymn writers, many of them from time to time, they crossed the border in consciousness. For example, the hymn writer that wrote the hymn, I am dwelling in Beulah land, that was pure divine consciousness. That's what I'm talking about. All right. So I'm going to suggest to you this new way of, let's say, meeting a problem. Anytime you meet a problem, then you know you're not where you're supposed to be. You get out of me into me. See, I know I'm not where I'm supposed to be. I know I'm not identifying myself correctly. Then I have to do as the old down-home spiritual says, move in the room with the Lord. So I want to introduce you tonight to the divine self of you which does not have a problem, which has never had a problem, and which will never have a problem. And this is what the psalmist spoke of when he said, he that dwells in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. All right, this goes right into the lesson that we're going to study formally tonight, the nature of my true self. I'm going to have the Science of Living Institute find out who this quotation came from, one of the great men like Emerson. But let's read it together, the first quotation. The infinite lies within you, stretched in smiling repose. Now you think about that. It'll keep you from getting upset. And if you ever get upset, just sit down and think about that for a moment. The infinite lies within you, stretched in smiling repose. Think about the Christ mind and let the Christ mind be within you. Whenever some human reason for me to be upset appears, I always say to myself, wait a minute, do you know that the divine mind is not upset? So let's make a personal affirmation out of that. The divine mind within me is not upset. Together? The divine mind within me is not upset. And I don't care how upset your human sense of self gets. The infinite lies within you, stretched in smiling repose. And every time I read this, do you know how I visualize the infinite? I visualize the infinite inside of me on a hammock, tied to two trees. And that beautiful quotation from that old hymn, again, showing divine consciousness. Humans through many scenes are drawn, and vexed with trifling cares, while thine eternal thought moves on, thine undisturbed affairs. There is something, capital S, within me that is never disturbed. Together, there is something within me that is never disturbed. And you have to learn to identify yourself with that, T, capital T. You have to learn to identify yourself as that, because whatever you identify yourself with and as, you experience that. So why should you always go around identifying yourself with that which is upset rather than that which lies within you, stretched in smiling repose? Isn't it wonderful to know God never gets upset? Now the God of man's creating gets upset. You see, some of you read the Bible and you don't know the difference between the different gods that you read about even in the Bible. It's a long subject. We'll get into that another time. But the infinite is never upset. Divine principle is never disturbed. And you have to come to that point of divine self-identity where you can say with Paramahansa Yogananda, I am He, I am He. Blessed Spirit, I am He. Cease from man whose breath is in his nostrils. What are you identifying yourself as? Who are you identifying yourself as? Who and what are you identifying yourself with? That's the question. Here again, you really never have any trouble with anybody but yourself. I am the only person that I ever have any trouble with. It's quiet, but let's say it together. It'll come to you if you don't get it now. Come on, let's say it. I am the only person that I ever have any trouble with. And it's good to know that, and I say that to myself because I know that if anybody gives me trouble, it's me, and since it's me, I can straighten me out. It's that human sense of self. I'll never forget the lesson that Reverend Ike gave us, I meet no one but me. I read that again and again. I have it on tape, and I listen to it. And every time I meet somebody that comes the wrong way, I'll say, well, I don't know why I'm acting like this. Absolutely. You try that on yourself. Now, the next time somebody acts up with you, you say, I wonder why am I acting like this? The mean boss is you. And what really got me was when Reverend Ike said, even the dog that bites you is you. I said, my goodness, Reverend. But it's true. All you ever meet is some facet of your own self-concept. That's why you should have a divine concept of yourself, because that human concept of self comes at you in so many different ways. It puts you through so many different changes. You see, all of the doubts that you have about yourself come back at you as other people. If anybody ever cheats you, that means that somewhere on the inside you have cheated yourself. If anybody's ever unfair to you, it means that somewhere on the inside of you, you've been unfair to yourself. So then go quickly to your divine self-identity and know that the infinite lies within you, stretched in smiling repose. Now let us read together the 37th Psalm, the 37th verse. Together. Mark the perfect man, and behold the upright. For the end of that man is peace. And who is this perfect man? Who is this upright? It's your divine self. It's your real, true self. So look away from the imperfections of human selfhood and look to the perfection of your divine selfhood. The real self of you has never known sin, because the real self of you is God. Let's read together this affirmation. My divine self is all that God is, for it is God living in me, through me, and as me. Let's read it together again. My divine self is all that God is, for it is God living in me, through me, and as me. The nature of my true divine self is healthy, happy, loving, successful, and prosperous. And I'm healthy, happy, loving, and beloved, successful, and prosperous. Why? Because it is the nature of my true divine self. So here again, the question always is, am I thinking about my divine nature, or am I thinking about my human nature? We should always know this. And this wonderful scripture from the book of Job. Let's read that together. Acquaint now thyself with him, and be at peace. Thereby good shall come unto thee. You see, so you've been acquainting yourself with the wrong concept of yourself. And this is what we do in these classes. This is what we do in these services here. We teach you to acquaint yourself with the divinity of you. And there are certain things which are natural to the divine self. Health, for example, is the nature of the divine self. And health is divinely natural. I always smile whenever I read or hear that someone died of natural causes. And people used to go to the witchcraft workers to find out if their sickness was natural. And I'm going to tell you right now, no, your sickness is not natural. Yeah. Health is natural. Say that with me. Health is natural. It's natural for you to be healthy. And we'll make a personal affirmation out of that. It's natural for me to be healthy. Come on. It is natural for me to be healthy. Now, I'd like to expand on that even further and say, it is divinely natural for me to be healthy. Together? It is divinely natural for me to be healthy. You know, in the world mind would have you believe that it's natural to be sick. And if you don't get all of those sicknesses that go around, why, people think you're oddball. And I've had people say to me, yes, Reverend Ike, but you know, you got to have something to take you out of this world. I don't need sickness to take me out of this world. I can find better ways of going now. And people are just conditioned to this. You can choose how you leave this world. You can program it. As a matter of fact, you do anyway, either consciously or unconsciously. Like, for example, we talk about accidents, and no such thing as accidents. But most people live unconsciously. But remember that health is divinely natural. And it is the wish of God in you that you should be healthy. And I love to read this scripture from 3 John. Let's read it together. Beloved, I wish that you would be in health. People have their minds mixed up as to what God's will is. Well, if it's the Lord's will for me to suffer, I'll just have to suffer. Well, you know you have to suffer. Maybe so, but I've done mine. And I ain't gonna study war no more. I did mine when I didn't know any better. But now that I do stand awake, I my throne do wisely take, and rule my kingdom, which is me, a master through eternity. So you just remember that sickness is no part of God's plan for you. Let us know also that happiness is divinely natural. And I'm sure some of us, anyway, know of religious people who seem to think that in order to please the Lord, you have to be miserable, at least to a certain extent. And do you know there are people who have so much religion that they feel guilty to feel happy? Like people who say, how can you sit down here and eat all of this good food? These Americans over here eating all this good food and other people are starving. I said, well, hell, it won't help me to starve with them. I'm not going to be miserable because other people are starving. That doesn't make my steak taste any less good. Somebody said the other day, yes, the Americans are eating themselves to death while others are starving to death. I said, well, if I had a choice, I would choose the former. And some people think that, well, maybe because somebody else is miserable that, you should be miserable too. And there are people, you got to watch your friends and your relatives. Sometimes they'll get themselves into some kind of a situation. And if you don't be miserable with them, they'll be insulted. And it is true, yes, misery does love company. When the news of Lazarus' death reached Jesus and his disciples, you remember some of the disciples said, well, Lord, let's go and die with him. But happiness is divinely natural. And don't you think for one moment that your being miserable is going to help the miserable. Your being hungry won't help the hungry. Your being needy will not help the needy. It just creates more need. And the best thing that you can do for poor people is to not be one of them. That will reduce the population of poverty at least by one. Let there be wealth on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be happiness on earth, and let it begin with me. So you remember that. One of the best ways you can help people who are sad is by not being one of them. Now, I never want anybody to pity me anyway. Oh, you poor thing, you, I feel. And you know, you have to watch that sympathy. Sympathy can be a deadly thing to the person that you give it to. As a matter of fact, sympathy is a terrible thing even to give yourself. Sympathy kills you if you give it to yourself. Now, some people have just buried themselves in self-pity. And self-pity always magnetizes you for pitiful things to happen to you. That's why you get all kicked around and pushed around. You pity yourself. And when you pity yourself, you're asking for something. You're asking for something to give you a reason to pity yourself. That's what you're asking for. If you pity yourself, you're asking for a kick in the behind. And you are going to get it. You married the meanest man there ever was. So self-pity asks for trouble. But happiness is divinely natural, and the prophet sings out, "The joy of the Lord is your strength." There's something dynamic and magnetic about joy, about being happy. And if you permit this divine happiness to dwell in your heart, you will always be drawing happy situations into your experience. You'll draw happy people to you. You go around being miserable, you'll draw miserable people to you. Some of you, that's all you've got anyway, a circle of miserable friends. A circle of miserable relatives. And you never hear from them unless they're at a jam and need some money. So I tell you, change your phone number. And don't even move, and don't even let your old auntie know where you are. You'd be like the man you sang in that old blues long ago. He said, "I'm going to move way on the outskirts of town. And I don't want no miserable people always hanging around." Now don't fool around, and if you find miserable people always flocking under your coattail, watch out. Yes, sir, be happy, look happy, feel happy, and smell happy. You'll always be drawing happy, interesting people into your experience. Love is divinely natural. And all the three wonderful words, God is love. When you understand that love is the unity of all things, then you'll be drawing all of the right people into your experience for every right purpose. And for you to experience love correctly, you have to first love yourself, your divine self. Now, there's no need looking for anybody to love you unless you love yourself correctly first. That's why I don't go for these people, these so-called self-sacrificing religious people who say, well, I love the whole world. I don't care much about myself. I just love other people. You go around trying to give your life for the world. A lot of good people tried that and it didn't work. Jesus wouldn't do it again. He wouldn't do it again. So it didn't do any good. I'm just trying to give all my life to others. You self-conceited hypocrite. If it wasn't in church, I'd say it a little differently. You give yourself first, you hear me? Because you can't give other people what you haven't first given yourself. You give yourself the right idea of yourself. You give yourself the divine idea of yourself. And then you'll give divinity to everybody else. You touch the divinity in others. And when others realize the divinity within them, it will be the greatest blessing that you could convey. But I urge you, God is love, and you ought to love yourself correctly first. And I want to be redundant about this, and it is your divine self. If you're not careful, you have to be careful with this teaching, or you'll think I'm teaching some type of egocentric philosophy. Love the divine self of you. Love the God in you. Love the right idea of yourself. The divine idea of yourself deserves to be loved. And this is loving God. You don't love God until you love yourself. Some religions even go so far as to teach people to hate themselves and love God at the same time. And people have been taught to punish themselves and to whip themselves and to beat themselves bloody to show how they hate themselves and love God. Such utter nonsense and insanity. You cannot love others correctly until you love yourself correctly, and others cannot love you correctly until you love yourself correctly. Yes, and I say you should be proud of yourself. And if you know your real self, you will be proud of your real self. You should be proud to know that God in you is you. And I have to keep repeating again and again, and if you're following me, you see that I'm not talking about human self-conceit. And you should congratulate yourself from time to time. As you recognize your divine self and see your divine self expressing, you should congratulate yourself. And you ought to be able to look and to see what God is doing in you and through you and as you. And say, oh, I'm so proud of what God is doing in me, through me, and as me. And praise the divine self as it lives in you, through you, and as you. And the more it will pour forth itself through you. This is divine self-pride. This is not human self-pride at all. Love is divinely natural, and that love must begin with you loving your divine self correctly. You loving the right idea of yourself. Loving yourself as a child of God. Loving yourself as an expression of God. Success is divinely natural. There is nothing on earth or anywhere else more unnatural than failure. It's not natural to fail. That's unnatural. A beautiful old spiritual is titled, There Is No Failure in God. Let's say it together. There is no failure in God. The Lord God in the Old Testament, in the book of Genesis, about the only thing he ever regretted was making man. But divine principle never fails. Just think of the millions of years that The sun has come up in the morning and gone down in the evening. The seasons have changed. The tide has come in and gone out. You know, there must be an unfaltering principle behind all of that. You can see that even in natural phenomena. Is that right? As the Christian saints would put it, Jesus never fails. And divine principle in this sense is what is truly meant by Jesus never fails. There are certain eternal cosmic laws which operate the same time all the time. And one of those great cosmic laws which operate the same time all the time without failing is this: as a man thinks, so is he. That never fails, and as Reverend Ike taught us in a previous lesson, you're always getting perfect results, whether it's perfect joy or a perfect mess. But every one of you here tonight, you may not know it, but every one of you here practicing perfection. The perfection of divine principle is operating in your life every moment. You are getting exactly what you think of yourself. If you want something else, then think something else about yourself. As I say, even if your life is a perfect mess, you're still getting perfect results. What you see is what you get. And one of the greatest things that I've ever heard Reverend Ike say, I think it was said the last lesson or a lesson before that, which again illustrates the immutability of divine principle. See yourself as you wish to be, for you must be as you see yourself. Now that's based on unchangeable divine principle. And some of you are probably shocked to know that you're getting perfect results in your life. Yes, you are. You're getting perfect results. If all you get is 50 cents a month, that's perfect results, because that's all you're thinking. Divine principle reacts to Rockefeller just like it does to you. Divine principle, the law of mind, is the same thing that makes the rich rich and makes the poor poor. You see, they're not two things. The Lord our God is one. And the same thing that makes you poor is the same thing that will make you what? Rich. And it's just as simple for the law of mind to make you poor as it is to make you rich. It is just as simple for the law of mind to make you a failure as it is to make you successful. It doesn't cost God anything for you to be rich. Uh-oh. I want to give you that, and I want you to write this down. It doesn't cost God anything extra for me to be rich. Come on. It doesn't cost God anything extra for me to be rich. That's why you don't have to have any guilt complex about eating steak while others are starving. Because if you didn't eat that steak, the poor, the folks, the people who don't have the consciousness for steak couldn't eat it anyway. It was just like the young man who walked up to me as I was sitting in one of the church's limousines, Rolls-Royce limousines, several years ago, about 3 summers ago. He said to me, "Pardon me, are you Reverend Ike?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Reverend, do you think it's right for you to be riding in a car like this?" Yeah, this car cost about $30,000. I said, "Well, you're off a few." He said, "But do you think it's right for you to be riding in a car like this?" I said, "What do you mean, son?" He said, "Well, you're supposed to be helping the poor, aren't you?" So I said to him, "Would it help the poor if I got out of this and got on a bicycle?" It wouldn't help the hungry for you to be hungry, would it? See how, you know, when you don't know the law of mind, you're just downright silly. It doesn't take anything. The rich people don't take anything from the poor folks. The poor folks take from themselves. You can only have what you have the consciousness to have. And I'll have to tell you this again, and I tell you this time and time again to illustrate what I mean, because we always have new people here. Always you're reading in the newspaper about people who died in the most poverty-ridden conditions. in an old shack full of junk and paper and garbage. And some of these people had begged on the streets for years. Just like some of these people in New York. I'm going to tell you something. I came to New York about 22 years ago, and some of the same people that I saw on the street begging 22 years ago, I go down on Fifth Avenue and I see them there still begging. They got a lot of money. But you see, they've got a beggar's consciousness and they can't even enjoy the money that they have. That's why I don't give them a damn thing. If a man comes to me and says, Reverend Mike, I'm on level with you. I want $1 to get me a pint of wine. I'd probably give him something first. He's honest. And if I don't feel like giving it to him, I'd say to him, well, look, son, I says, you know, I said, if I can't afford to support a habit like that, I sure can't support yours. But so many times people who have been beggars and who lived in poverty die, and they find hundreds of thousands of dollars in their hovels when they die. Well, you see, the truth is they didn't have their money had them. And there's a difference there. That's why everything that I have, I make it my business to enjoy it, and damn it, everything you get your hands on, you enjoy it. Right after I first got married, that's when I sent for the insurance man to come and so that the church could take out insurance on me for the benefit of my wife. And so after they finally made the investigation and saw the angels at my house and all like that, my wife started kidding me. She says, says, when you die, that me and my next husband are going to live it up. I got to thinking about that, and I said, you call that insurance man. Call him right back here. I took out one on her. I says, that you can mess around if you want and go before I do. But me and my next whatever are going to really live it up. Now, I'm not telling you to be reckless with your money. That's not what I mean. But everything that comes your way by means of your God consciousness, you should enjoy it and savor it. Because whatever you enjoy, you increase. Write that down. Whatever you enjoy correctly, you increase. And I've told you and warned you before, never put anything away for a rainy day. Because if you do, it's going to rain children. And don't think you're going to take anything from anybody by enjoying, by succeeding, and by prospering. Well, the few things that I have, if you want to call them that. If I didn't have them and enjoy them, the poor people wouldn't have them. Success is divinely natural. Prosperity is divinely natural. I love the scripture from Joshua, you shall have good success. Together, you shall have good success. What kind of success? Good success. Everybody should be a big success. I was so happy to read yesterday that in 1972, about 25,000 more Americans became millionaires. More people are becoming millionaires today than ever. Don't you believe this old bunk about devaluation? People come to me talking about the devaluation of the dollar. I said, I'd sure rather have a few million of these devalued dollars today than nothing of those valued dollars of yesterday. And I have to repeat here again something about Harry Truman when he first ran for president on his own. And one of his opponents said, yes, in 1932 you could buy so much for a quarter. And Harry Truman said, yes, but in 1932, who had a quarter? But just stop and think for a moment. Just last year alone, 25,000 more people became millionaires. And it's easier today to be successful and prosperous than ever before. Why ordinary people are becoming successful and prosperous and becoming multimillionaires. You see, because, to go back a ways in American history, the big multimillionaires, you would say they made it in railroads and in shipping and in things of that kind. But here again, look at that old man from Kentucky who was drawing his Social Security, an old man, and he got a chicken and an idea. That's all he had, a chicken and an idea. Colonel Sanders. And he started frying chicken. And he is a multimillionaire. Which goes to what I tell you from time to time, that, everything is idea. And some people seem to think that, well, because I didn't get a great education, because maybe I'm an ordinary person. Well, Colonel Sanders was a very ordinary man. Drawing Social Security. The biggest franchise business in the nation today, Time magazine did about 10 pages on them a few weeks ago, is McDonald's. Nothing but a damn hamburger. How much more simple can success be? There's a man with a hamburger and an idea. Then he put cheese on it and made it a cheeseburger. And he kept adding. Now, what's the latest thing they've got? Big Mac. Nothing but a damn hamburger. But he kept getting, after he got that first hamburger idea, he kept putting ideas onto that idea. Are you with me? Anybody here taking me serious? See, some people are looking for some fantastic thing to come out of the sky. Some people are looking for some great wonder. Oh no, success is many times a simple idea. Yes, and people have gotten rich off of great ideas, like the Wright brothers and aeronautical science and Thomas Edison and the electric light bulb. But just think today, people are getting rich off of hamburgers. Some of you women in here can out-fry Colonel Sanders any day when it comes to chicken. Well, why ain't you rich? I myself can make hamburgers. Absolutely. So if I stopped preaching, I could set up a hamburger stand, and I guarantee you, brother, I'd give McDonald's a run for all their money. Every once in a while, I make up some hamburgers, too. I've got my own recipe written down in my house. I give it to my housekeepers. I've made them myself to show them what I mean. You never tasted anything like it. I know so many, if I stop doing this, I know so many simple ideas. Because you see, when you become a person of ideas, and as one of Reverend Ike's success ideas was titled, I open my mind to right ideas. When you get in the habit of opening your mind to right ideas and to success ideas, why, successful ideas, money-making ideas just come to you in floods, which fulfill the words of Jesus, to him that hath, to him it shall be given. Colonel Sanders is going to get richer. No chicken will be safe. They're always coming up with new ideas. The rich get richer and the poor get poorer. That's the law of mind. And that's what wealth is anyway. Wealth is pure idea. So is poverty, pure idea. I'm just nudging some of you to show you, that success is divinely natural, and it doesn't have to be making discoveries in aeronautical science or in the electric light or in automobiles like Henry Ford did and became a billionaire. You get the right idea, you can become successful with a simple thing. Every day of your life, some of you work in miracles. Some of you fry chicken every week. Never made a nickel out of it. Colonel Sanders fries chickens and makes billions. Some of you have been making hamburgers all your days. McDonald's, like way back yonder, all McDonald had was a farm. McDonald's got more than a farm now. E-I-E-I-O. Can't laugh after old MacDonald anymore. It was interesting to read that biography of how it started out with one little old hot dog stand. I think it was in Illinois somewhere. Okay, success is divinely natural. And in order to fail, you really have to work at it. And some of you work at it too. Some of you are just like district attorneys working against yourself to convict yourselves of poverty. Well, I can't. No, that wouldn't work. Oh, I wish I could. No, but I couldn't. Oh, I sure wish I had. No, but I know I couldn't. I couldn't. Every time the God in you tries to open up a thought in your mind, you talk it down, think it down. And then you get on the phone and call Susie. Susie finishes you off. No, girl, you couldn't do that. I'm reading somebody over there. That's another thing, when you get these good ideas, don't always open your mouth and tell other people. Sometimes it's not even good to tell your husband or your wife. So I usually, whatever I'm going to do, I do it. And then by the time all the people who know why I can't do it get around, it's already done. All right. God in you expresses the wish of prosperity for you by saying, "Beloved, I wish that you would prosper." So remember, the nature of your true self is prosperity, success, love, happiness, and health. It is your divine birthright to be healthy, happy, loving, beloved, successful, and prosperous. That is yours. These attributes are yours by divine right. I have made you healthy. How is it that you're sick? I've made you to be happy. How is it that you're sad? I have made you to love and be loved. How is it that you're lonely and unloving? I have created you to be successful and prosperous. How is it that you fail? How is it that you lack? The manifestation of God is given dominion over all things and power to subdue. He is not to be subdued or dominated by material phenomena, conditions, and circumstances. Let's read from the book of Genesis, the first chapter, the 27th and 28th verses, together. So God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him. Male and female created he them. And God blessed them. And God said unto them, "Be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth and subdue it and have dominion over the fish of the sea and over the fowl of the air, and over every living thing that moveth upon the earth. God created man a master. God created me a master. Together, God created me a master over myself. Let's read this affirmation together. I create all things in the image and likeness of my divine nature. Things do not move me. I move things. I move all things, yet I am unmovable. All of my happiness, all of my good are based upon and proceed from my immutable, invincible divine nature. Nothing moves me, yet I move all things. Nothing changes me, yet I change all things. Oh, this is the God in you talking. I'm reminded of the time when the Apostle Paul and his shipmates experienced that disaster at sea. And Paul prayed and fasted. He stopped feeding upon the suggestions of negation, and started feasting on the inward truth of God within him. And then he stood forth and declared, none of these things move me. Things are not to move you, you are to move things. I don't depend upon things to make me happy, I make things happy by means of my indwelling divine happy nature. Things don't make me happy, I make happy things. And there's a difference. Because you see, some of you people, you depend upon things to make you happy. That's backward. As long as you depend upon things to make you happy, you know, sometimes you'll be up and sometimes you'll be down. But every man needs to come to know that he has the power of happiness within himself. And I want to give you this for an affirmation. I have the power of happiness within my divine self. Together, I have the power of happiness within my divine self. And when you know that you have the power of happiness within yourself, then you won't wait for things to make you happy. What will you do? Make happy things. And everywhere you go, you'll make people happy. People will just love to have you around. And I just love to have happy people around me. Some people are so happy that, the least thing that they say is just funny. And some people are so miserable that even when something good comes up, they talk it down. You could be sitting enjoying a good meal with them and said, oh, isn't this good? Yeah, but food is getting scarce. Like I heard the other day, they've got this big scare out about energy, an energy crisis. Boy, they're talking that up. Oil is scarce. But mark my word, the so-called energy crisis is a blessing, because God in man will devise other ways and means to bring forth the infinite energy of God into manifestation. Meanwhile, all of my tanks are full. I'm not participating in any shortage. Say that with me. I'm not participating in any shortage. I refuse to participate. It's a funny thing. I guess it was about 6 months ago. I called the office in Boston and spoke to our director of operations. And he said to me, he says, Reverend, the power just went out. I said to him, the power never goes out. And all of a sudden he said, it just came back on. I said, well, you remember, the power never goes out. Look out now. Oh! Lord have mercy. Some of you don't know what the power is. Lord, I'm glad I'm connected to a power that doesn't become exhausted. Trust in the Lord forever, for in the Lord Jehovah is everlasting strength. You shall know the truth. The truth will make you free from all shortages. They were talking about that beef shortage some time ago. I never missed a steak. I found out what David found out. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. People just talking up this stuff. And it's really ridiculous in a way because, as I said, even out there in the phenomenal world, more people are getting rich than ever before. It's easier to make money than ever before. And some of the people who are making all of this money didn't even get out of grade school. And some of these nitwits around here won't even go to school. Teacher don't like me. The principal don't like me. You better remember you have to advance yourself for yourself. I even get blessed from people who say they don't like me. I was reading somebody's magazine today that gets on the radio and preaches about me, and I just got blessed from reading his magazine. And you know what I said to him through the universal subconscious? I said, the only thing that I'm going to give you is good, and the only thing I'm going to let you give me is good. Yes, sir. You see, when you become a self-master, then you know exactly what to give people and you know what to take from them. You can take what you want and leave the rest. All right. I want you to read the next sentence with me because it's so full of infinite meaning. Together, I create the people and things in my life out of my own self-concept and mentality. Everything in your life you created. Every person in your life is an incarnation of some facet of your own self-belief. For I, the one the many make, of substance, which from me I take. I am the one. There are no two. Creation is myself all through. I gave you some time ago a copy of that poem by Retzima. How many of you have it? You read that, study that. That old so-and-so is you. Pray for the Lord to change that old so-and-so. You're the so-and-so that needs to change. And just ask yourself, why do I act like that? There's some concept of yourself that you need to change. Dr. Jiggets, I want you to write a sentence for me on the other side of the board. I'm going to have all of you write it down. And this is the question that you need to constantly be asking yourself. And when you come to a harmonious answer of this question, you will harmonize all of your affairs. Am I on good terms with myself? Am I on good terms with myself? Let's say that to ourselves. Am I on good terms with myself? And you see, that's really all you ever need to do. If you be on good terms with yourself, everybody and everything will be compelled to be on good terms with you. And anytime you have a situation where for some reason or the other you and someone else are not on good terms, somewhere in your subconscious you're not on good terms with yourself. If you're on good terms with yourself, nobody will be able to even do you a deal. People will try and can't do it. And they won't know why. If you're on good terms with yourself, you'll get good things that will come to you that, will reach all over everybody else.
Right?
I meet no one but me. Therefore, I must know myself to be my ideal. I must know myself to be my sweetest dream come true. I must know myself to be divine. I must feel myself to be the fulfillment of all the good which I desire to be, to do, and to have. I'm going to leave this question with you. Am I on good terms with myself? And never leave that question in your mind until you can answer it affirmatively. No, you don't need to straighten out the other person. You only need to do what? Be on good terms with yourself. And if you're on good terms with yourself, you see, you won't try to pull anything on anybody else. You'll treat yourself right, and other people will have to treat you right. Let's stand and do some work together in affirmation. Interrogate yourself with this question. Some of you may be new to this teaching, and some of you who've been coming here for several years, maybe it's new to you too. I think so sometimes. Because I have a wonderful experience now, you know. I meet so many very important people and so many great, famous and renowned teachers, and they all want to find out from me, what am I doing? I said, well, I'm doing the same thing you've been talking about for 50 years. That's all I'm doing. You've been just teaching it. I'm living it. But I want you to use this. And this week is going to be different. And your life is going to be different. Just talk to yourself. And you know, kind of leave everybody alone and everything alone. Stop fidgeting with things. Stop beating your head against the wall. Stop trying to straighten out the whole world. Leave the people in Washington and Watergate alone. Don't watch the television every day with that mess on it. Go within yourself to that place in you where God lives and ask yourself the question, am I on good terms with myself? And when you come to good terms with yourself, life will come to good terms with you. This is all under the heading of subconscious compulsion. If we haven't had a lesson by that title yet, we will. Because everything that happens in your life is subconsciously compelled by your concept of yourself, by your relationship to yourself within yourself. This week, forget about trying to straighten anybody or anything out. If you have any problems, you leave them be too. You might as well. And do this one thing. As Jesus said, only one thing is needful. This is the one thing in all of life that is needful. To be on good terms with yourself. To be on good terms with your divine self. If you come to good terms with yourself, again, and I want to be redundant, life will come to good terms with you. The people that you've been having problems with, you won't have problems with them anymore. Either they'll straighten out, and if they don't, it won't make any difference. You'll be like Gene Autry used to sing, I don't worry, because it makes no difference now. The only thing that matters is that I be on good terms with myself. I mean, come to such good terms with yourself so that you can look yourself in the eye and respect yourself. And you see, you like being on good terms with yourself so much that you won't try to violate yourself or anybody else. You love this at one-ment with your divine self so much. When you come to peace with yourself, when you come to good terms with yourself, as the scripture says, it will even quicken your mortal body. When you are on good terms with yourself, sickness won't be able to touch you. So work on this week. This is what I do now. It's been wonderful the time I've taken off so that I can meditate. This is all I ever try to do in one way or in one term or the other. And that mind gets to wandering around there, out there in the world. Just bring it back. Jesus, the mastermind, has warned us anyway, in the world you shall have tribulations. There's no need to go out there to try to solve the world's problems. Don't do it. Give up the problems of the world. You're not going to solve the problems of the world. In the world you shall have tribulation. But in me, peace. And who's this me in which you find peace? God in you. In your divine self. Nobody's ever been able to solve the problems of the world. Nobody's ever been able to do anything with the world successfully but to come out of it. And I'm not talking about a physical thing as such. I'm talking about spiritually and mentally. You have to mentally come out of the world. Come ye out from among them and be you separate. Separate yourself from the belief in sickness. Separate yourself from the belief in poverty. Separate yourself from the belief in problems. Separate yourself from every belief but the belief in God in you.